Hello and welcome to the 14th edition of the IDRiM podcast. Today we're carrying on with our interview with Professor Tatano of Kyoto University from last week. So last week we particularly looked at his earlier stages of his career and the 2011 Japanese earthquake and tsunami. Today what we're going to look more at is his roles in IDRiM and GADRI, and also look at his experiences of supervising students, in particular PhD students, as he is actually being interviewed by my co-host as well as myself, and my co-host is actually a former student of Professor Tatano's. We hope you enjoy today's episode.
Oh, we have been talking about your research and like how it's actually moved towards the implementations and like preparation for another disasters. I think it's time for come to more personal questions.
More personal questions.
This is like it's before like more personal, but I want to since you are in IDRiM podcast and it's well known that you are one of the founders, maybe the one who initiate the IDRiM, as you mentioned in your experience that IASA developed a forum in the beginning of the 2000s, and since you are one of the initiators, what do you think about the current IDRiM development right now? Is it within your expectation at the beginning, or it's beyond that?
Yeah, I'm very happy to have a kind of young generation like you. Both of you are working intensively for IDRiM Society. I'm very happy, right? And at the beginning, actually, I'm very much surprised at the beginning, right? When we start the IASA DPRI forum on the integrated disaster risk management, right? Yeah, actually, the project in Photo School, they started 1994 or 5, right? And the other, IASA, they started kind of Euro conference 2 years before, 1999. DPRI has a long history for dealing with the disaster. But the other part of the world, disaster is not really much focused before 90s.
Okay.
So I found that then disaster risk financing, right? And is getting popular that period. So that brings more attention in the economists and management or business people and the insurance companies, or maybe organization like World Bank can join that meeting. So that is, but at the beginning, yes, the DPRI meeting is a very focused, a small group, and then, but very new, or maybe very, they feel this is new area. We should first conduct some research, and then to discuss kind of the consequences of the, let's say, more free trade, how disaster shapes the phases of disaster. It causes more, if world is connected, then the disaster spread, impact of disaster spread all over the world, or maybe mitigate the impact. Such things, right? It is very, very intensively discussed. Then I feel that, this is very interesting, and then we should have developed this. Actually, my way of developing the research is in some sense coherent with this direction. So it's very, very happy. And then after some period, but the IASA DPRI meeting after Streza, the 2007, yes, and Nori and Joanne and Aniero discussed, and then maybe we can finish this in 10 years experiment, right? Then I talked to Anna and Reinhardt, And then they said that why we should stop this. Then we discussed, and then new shape of the meeting should be explored. Then we have been discussed what way we can continue for this. Then finally we decided to form IDRiM Society. Of course, we need to the 2008 basically very small IES DPRI meeting, also discussing in what way we can continue for this. And then 2009 we have been actually in Kyoto, we have been decided to form IDRiM Society. First meeting happened organized 2010 at Vienna, Boku. Yeah, that is our thought. Current IDRiM Society much more was at that time actually yes, a DPRI is a core. Right? But ECJRC and other BNU or other university are actually already joined. So we have decided to have to form IDRiM Society as a kind of the common society for the researchers. Then now it's getting more expanding, and then role for the elderly person can be relatively getting reduced. So I think it will be very nice. I think. Thank you. That's my view.
Yeah. So, in terms of the IDRiM Society, can you actually tell us about your role within the IDRiM Society, and in particular as vice president of the IDRiM Society itself?
Yeah, I am vice president. Just a vice president, not very, very important. But actually, what I'm doing is a kind of mainly finding some financial sources for the secretaries, and also they are finding some sources to support some key persons to attend the conferences, and other maybe kind of the job in the background. That is my role. I think. So if I retire such a background job, who can do that? Is a little afraid, anxious about that. But I hope someone can take over that. Yes, thank you.
This is the call for any member of IDRiM who will take the reign of the vice president of IDRiM later. So for every one of you who listen to this, prepare yourself.
Yeah.
Now, outside IDRiM, you're also part of, you have multiple roles, of course, in different societies. For example, from what I know, and you are also the president of Japan Society of Natural Science and Secretary General of GADRI, and also one of the contributors on the Japan-China conferences. And how do you manage to have all these roles, and whether these roles interacted to make more people actually that's interesting in the disaster risk research?
Yeah, but definitely not very different. But the academic society has their own kind of color of the research, right? So if you like, then to work in that discipline then it is fine, right? But Japan Society of for the Natural Disaster Science, basically, this is started for the kind of the group for the disaster surveys in Japan before, and also the information sharing in the different areas in Japan. So that is a kind of the root of the Japan Society of Natural Disaster Science. So the DPRI always was a kind of the working with this society as a kind of the supporters or contributors. So that's the reason why I'm working for that. But this year, these 3 years, I'm now working as a president. And then it's the current issue for the society is a kind of the English journal, and then that was stopped for a while. We decided with the Korean society called Kosham, request Springer to publish it, and then renewed journal started. I'm feel relieved as a president now. Yeah, and also we started a kind of let's say a cafe similar for this is a very good let's say connection, right?
Yes.
IDRiM cafe we have. Then I also request a cafe in Japan Society of Natural Disaster Science, and then in Japanese.
In Japanese.
Then we have more relaxed and talk.
Yes.
Kind of not the kind of formal discussion in the conference, but the more kind of frank discussions. What is the difficulty for the recovery processes? Why gender problems, or kind of how inclusive? That's how things we have been discussing, and also sometimes the research itself. It's very interesting. Well, I followed the IDRiM Society activities. Yeah, thank you. GADRI is a kind of the Global Alliance for Disaster Research Institutes. If I talk this, maybe I take it take a very long time. So I don't want to say so much.
Okay.
But anyway, the research institute as a member, right?
Yes.
We don't have such a kind of group. So but that at the beginning, this organization initiated basically right after 2011, right? So every research institutes representatives feel that we need to have some kind of place to discuss and make a statement by one voice. So that is also the kind of momentum for the GADRI to be formed. And then I'm now also the kind of person to maintain this organization. Basically, my role is maintain. That's it. Thank you.
Now thinking about back to your career a little bit and getting more into the personal bit now. Throughout your long career, were there any mentors or role models that have guided you or inspired you today?
Yeah, many people contributing for me, and then but definitely I did. Of course, Nori Okara is a very important person for me, and then another person called Kiyoshi Kobayashi. He's Nori is a kind of, they would say, one elderly, and then Kiyoshi is between Nori and myself. And Kiyoshi is a professor for Muneta Yokomatsu or Masamitsu Onishi and many Japanese professors. But yeah, actually, he is one of the big figures for the economic analysis, especially in the field of the infrastructure planning and management. So I'm very much influenced by him. And then another person is already passed away. While I was at Tottori University, Hajime Kawai, he is the person who have been working in the field of reliability analysis, and then kind of the operations research management science person, but the theoretical proof of the characteristic of the policies, that is, he's doing very well. So I have been learned from him how to do that, and what are the kind of basic structure for the proof, and then also stochastic models and the stochastic, system. And then when I moved to IASAP, he or the Andrew Rudzinski, he is also the mentor for me, and decision under uncertainty. That is his area. And Yuri Amore, both are basically complex analysis and mathematical, mathematics operation research, but very advanced modeling. But anyway, these forms my my base to develop my research as a kind of the for the economic impact analysis of the planning analysis, these kind of things are basically given that period. I think. Yeah.
Okay then. So well, although we actually have recorded very long, but I think I need to question this. As you started as professors, maybe in Totori also you've been teaching, and you've been teaching and supervising a lot of students, and like me as directly and personally supervised by you, and like witnessing how your supervising style changes over time, the new one. Even like I also heard a lot from the seniors that you are different from that. How your styles changing over time, and like what actually, if it's really changed, why you change it, or what is the driver for you to change that kind of style? This kind of bit of my personal question, but yeah, let's have other people also listen.
Okay, that's very clear. The young ages, when I was young, right, the achievement, like a paper, right? Even I working with you, right? But if even you are the first author, right? But I feel that research with my name is my paper, right? My research. So I'm very responsible for that. Maybe even one wrong word if you use, then that is my mistake. So that time I feel that way. So I'm very, very dedicated to write a paper with student too. So that means a kind of the even very simple, small mistake, right? But still, I don't want to have that, right? So I'm very much strict, yeah. And then we should have a very strong sense of the, let's say, understanding together for the achievements or directions, such as things. Maybe not divided into two persons. Maybe you are my flesh, something like that. That is all the young ages emotion, right? Then recently, I found that I understand I cannot communicate like that way, and I cannot spend such a long time and spend such a long strong effort to our student, right? Then definitely I decided, of course, I can be a part of the author, but and also I can similarly provide the new ideas or directions, whatever we can discuss, but not 100% responsible. That is my current my understanding, right? So they are more relaxed.
Yes.
So they are maybe getting more freedom for the student and room to consider, decide the direction, but discuss. That's fine, but easy, right? So that's the answer. Maybe depends, right? That very depends on the capability of the student, up to what level paper can be produced or not. That is another very much depends. But currently, we are very fortunate to have a wonderful, I must say, talented students. So it is getting good. Still keeping good quality. I think. Thank you. That's it. That's my story for the supervision of students.
So I'm just thinking here about you talking about your supervising and all that. Can you share any your experiences in supervising PhD and MSc students? And is there any particular student, project, or success that really stands out? And Harris is looking very expectantly there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm getting old, so not from the latest to the older, it's easy to recall, right? But the oldest student was Mamoru Yoshida and Satoshi Tsuchiya, and they are actually the beginning of the each student had a different, let's say, area of studies. Yeah, I have very, let's see, interesting, good memories. But yeah, during PhD studies, right? Sometimes they can create their own way to digest problems, maybe, right? Or maybe getting skills to deal with actual problem they want to consider, right? So that sense, yeah, after some period, like Johnson, okay, Johnson may be very interesting. Yeah, Shinyu Jan and is one of my former student. He is now working in Nanjing University as a research professor. But before joining Nanjing University, he was at the Wuhan University of Technology. Then he is teaching in the management school. But his PhD study is in more closer to Harris, actually, how to develop a kind of river management plans. Your case, Harris's case is the ash, volcanic eruption. So more physical and or more kind of the statistical, right? Or more kind of engineering question. But he moved to, of course, he's also spent with me, like Harris, 7 years in our laboratory. And he ran the kind of economic impact studies, and then some of the methodology, like input-output models and computer CZ models. He is very good at the computer handling. So he is now develop a new type of model called agent-based model for the economic impact studies. So he's trained as a kind of like a more engineering, but he's now working for the management or economics. And then he knows both, very impressive. And then actually, such a kind of things, definitely he decided in what way that he can conduct. But it's very, in some sense, idea, right? Even you're working now on the more engineering, analytic analysis, but maybe you may work for the other areas, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Problem solving. That is maybe most important. We should have some skill. Okay, good. Yeah, that's my thought. Thank you. That's it.
So, well, now that you mentioned so many different fields that confluence in the disaster risk reductions, and especially in your expertise in economic assessment, what do you see current trends in these fields, basically the emerging trends and how it's actually will move to the future?
Yeah, actually, if we look at the problems in the disaster risk reduction or disaster response, that's such a kind of real world problems, then definitely our society is only consider kind of the average level of the protection, not considering a kind of the, let's say, the differences for the situation for the individual citizens and the firms, right? But the recent disaster highlights basically such a, let's say, in some sense, peripheral area in the group of the community, in the group of the firms, or maybe peripheral in the geographical locations. Such a kind of a peripheral person had a kind of difficulty for the recovery, and they get more, say, problems. Then without considering that the treatment for them, we cannot improve our, say, levels of safety. So I think such a kind of the consideration is now very, very important. And the another, this is such sense we should consider kind of not the average question, but also include more individual things into our scope of the analysis. This is one thing. The other thing is a kind of the let's say normative science, right? Normative science say that given this situation, this is good. This is not good. Yeah, given that, right? But this condition is not always set at the beginning, and also really, let's say, observable, right? And then also even if this policy can improve this policy can improve this, both are maybe if implemented, then both may be well for each reality. Maybe theoretical study can say that way, but how much theoretical studies very little talking explain, right? So to do this, definitely we need to have some data, or maybe empirical analysis, right? So they are currently we also are working for kind of empirical studies to find how effective that policies are. So such things definitely should be continued, and then combine the large picture models and also the models which may have more some say let's say detailed resolution in the society, right? Then we can find better ways improve our policies and our knowledge to deal with that problem. That is my I would say current I would say understanding how we should proceed. Then finally, definitely the empirical study also relates to the implementation science. Actually, our personal or our let's say organizational or institutional intervention to the society, how that changes the situation. But we didn't record well so much. So we need to also have such a kind of records and papers should be collected, and then analyze the effectiveness of the policies in the real world. That is another important, let's say, direction for us to proceed. Thank you.
So actually just thinking now about challenges in your career. So what were some of the challenges you may have faced as you pursued your education and an early career in a specialized field like economic impact assessment from natural disasters?
Of course, always it's not very easy. Yeah, actually, the economic impact assessment, of course, some of the research has been done before, but yeah, actually, I found that not based on the empirical data in many cases. So something very strange used to be. So that we have been decided to combine this with field surveys, and then of course not very easy at the beginning to make a survey in the field, and then what should be asked, and then what is the critical for us to evaluate from that survey, and then in what way that can be connected to the so-called some economic models, right? But the economic model, most of them are kind of some constraint because of some technical aspect, right? Increasing return to scale maybe in the real world causes the kind of concentration of the, let's say, a number of the firms in some, let's say, sectors, but most of the economic models can be used for the disaster impact studies is a constant return to scale. So the size of the firms are not a matter, right? Yeah. But that is not very acceptable sometimes, but not very, if we lose that such a assumption, then the model could be very complicated or maybe has a many variety of models. So we cannot say anything from that analysis. So that is one of the difficulties still we are facing. And also the multi-sectorial models with a dynamic decision making, that is still not very easy to be, let's say, solved for this area. Of course, some trials has, of course, always conducted, but I think that is still a big area to be investigated. Yeah. Thank you.
So, well, we've been recording for so long, and maybe this is my last question. If unless Mark have another question to ask, it's like now you mentioned that based on how your student grows and the IDRiM's now filled with many young researchers. Do you have any advice to give for us, the young researchers, our professionals maybe, also to that aspire, that has the aspiration to enter to this field?
Yeah, disaster study is some very few areas you can feel this research can improve society, right? And then also your intellectual, let's say, interest can be fulfilled also. Of course, depends on the area or can interest, but I think because different the people who have different skills and specialties or interests, then that provides the kind of the big stream to improve our society. So I think we hope, of course, each person should have their own maybe skills and the intention, but it is a very nice area. We can talk each other in the different fields of people, and also to find common goals together. So definitely, this is the most attractive things for the disaster risk reduction research field. Thank you.
So for all of you who listen and watch, it's like this field is the disaster risk studies is the most attractive field you can go into. So you can go and learn and research in this field. Do you have any addition, Mark?
In terms of that point, it's actually the most interesting field because it's always changing, and that's what keeps it fresh for us and keeps us always interested.
Any other questions, Mark?
No, I think that's everything.
Okay, so thank you very much for everyone to listen to the great stories of one of the founders of IDRiM's. Hopefully you can enjoy it, and see you next time.